Welcome to the Power of One. In the city of Philadelphia, it's alarming to know how many hit and runs are taking place with pedestrians, and more alarming, how many hit and runs are taking place when bicyclists are hurt. Please understand that we have to be cautious with people who are crossing the street and people who are riding their bikes to and from work, to and from school. We have to watch out for one another. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Sarah and Laura. Welcome to the show. Sarah, please tell me about the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia and the programs you offer.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Melanie. My name is Sarah Clark Stuart. I'm with the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, and we are a 50-year-old nonprofit that has a mission of wanting to make bicycling a fun and safe way for anyone to get around anywhere in Greater Philadelphia. So that's Philly, the city, and the surrounding 8 counties in southeastern PA and in New Jersey. So we work on a couple of big issues. We work on providing education to different kinds of communities around bicycle safety and learning how to ride. We also do policy advocacy work around bike lanes and trails. So we work on wanting to we want to help encourage municipalities and counties to create safe infrastructure for anyone to bicycle around Greater Philadelphia, whether that be on a trail or in the street in some kind of protected bike lane.
Okay. All right. And Laura, please tell me about the Families for Safe Streets in New Jersey and the programs that you offer.
Thank you. Hi, Melanie. So let me just preface by saying my daughter Emily was killed in November of 2017 while she was cycling in Philadelphia. So she lived in Philadelphia. My husband and I live in New Jersey. She was cycling in an unprotected bike lane on Spruce Street, and the driver of a sanitation truck made a right hook into her at the corner of 11th and Spruce. He did not have a turn signal on. He was distracted. He did not yield to her as indicated by signage. And I really still can't believe that she's been taken from us in such a tragic, traumatic, and preventable way. So I'm involved with Families for Safe Streets in New Jersey, as well as co-founder of the chapter in Philadelphia. So in New Jersey, we're focused right now on being part of the Vision Zero New Jersey Alliance, which is about bringing Vision Zero to New Jersey. The parent organization of Families for Safe Streets New Jersey is Tri-State Transportation Campaign. And a big win recently in New Jersey was the safe passing law. And in Philadelphia, we met Sarah at the Vision Zero conference in March of, it was 2018. So it was the March after Emily was killed. And we met other families who had been affected by traffic violence. Shannabelle Lathan Morris, her son was cycling and killed by a hit and run driver, and Latanya Bird's family, her niece and her 3 children were killed on Roosevelt Boulevard, and Ann Japsikas's husband, Peter, was a pedestrian on the sidewalk and was killed by an out of control driver. And I guess Families for Safe Streets had been on Sarah's radar, and she got us together. And in February of 2019, we launched our chapter in Philly. And the Families for Safe Streets in New York is the chapter that's been formed the longest, and they have been wonderful in getting all the other chapters together, especially during the pandemic, holding some therapy sessions for us, art therapy, music therapy, but also getting us together so our voices can be heard even louder and stronger with all our chapters together. And we feel we were instrumental in having the national goal, first ever national goal of 0 traffic deaths. That was reported by Secretary Buttigieg in January. The Vision Zero Network, it could be me, all these coalitions coming together and having their voices heard about this epidemic of traffic violence.
In being in victim services, I was floored year after year when I would complete annual reports to see the reports on hit and runs with just pedestrians walking, whether that's bicyclists or even the hit and runs as far as cars. When you have someone who, or family members who reaches out to you because their loved one was a victim of a hit and run, whether they're still alive or unfortunately lost their lives, what does each of your agencies do for the victim or for the co-homicide survivors? And just let me say that I've worked very closely with Captain Overwise at the accident investigation unit, and he is awesome. But what services do you offer to those victims and those co-homicide survivors?
Well, what we try to do is for every family member or community around a victim, the circumstances is very unique. So we have to, when they reach out and want either to become involved or they want help, we do whatever it is that they ask for. So if they are seeking for better service by the police department or the district attorney, we try to make that happen. If they are interested in getting involved in an advocacy campaign, then we bring them in and say, here's an advocacy campaign that's occurring. Could you be one of our champions or a voice for that campaign? If they want to do whatever it is that they want, we try to service them. And I can't emphasize enough that every family member, every community is very, very, very different. And there is just no cookie cutter approach about this. And many people are really in so much pain, they just really want to feel some acknowledgement, but they may not really even be able to express what they want. So we try to listen and hear what they're asking for and try to deliver that.
Yeah, that's very true, Sarah, all of that. And I just wanted to say that we are honored to work with Captain Overwise as well, and Families for Safe Streets and the Bicycle Coalition was instrumental in helping that division acquire 2 pieces of very important software, which will help that division investigate crashes. And just an example of what Sarah said about trying to see what the families need. At this past World Day of Remembrance in November, we did invite some families to speak there that day that are not part of our Families for Safe Streets group as yet, but we invited them to come and share their stories of loss, and it is painful to do that. I know that talking about Emily is painful, but I always want to say her name. And we hope that in these ways we can give these families the opportunity to connect with their grief and hopefully see that advocacy is a form of therapy. And I know it has given my husband, Rich, and I a purpose, in our lives and trying to find some meaning to Emily's death.
Right. And Laura has shared her story as far as why her mission began. Sarah, do you have a personal story that started you on this mission and this journey in your life?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've never really been asked that before. I think, have two answers or two reasons. One is that personally, I lost my husband at a very young age. He was 49. He died of heart failure. So it was not it was not a car crash. It was not that kind of thing, but it was very sudden. It was immediately. So I experienced that loss and that grief that I think gives me a channel for feeling empathy for other families who are going through that shock of losing someone so suddenly out of the blue. It's such a terrible, well, you just can't even put words into it, right? So, but I think and then the other answer is that these families have enormous agency. When they speak to decision makers, everything changes. And so as an advocate, someone who has been working as an advocate my whole career, I've never had the experience before of bringing to decision makers people who can make the case in such a powerful way. And it's making the issue so personal in a way that it changes the dynamic completely of the sort of advocacy journey that we're on. And so this occurred first with Shanabelle Latham Morris. And this was in 2016. And let me step back for a moment. And this is a really hard thing to talk about in a short period of time, but it's truly devastating when anyone is killed by a car or a bus, and it occurs in Philadelphia about every 3 days. And there's a normality to that is really awful. And what's horrible is that happens, but also that only a certain number of those people get a lot of attention. It happens normally, and many people die, and no one cares. No one reports on it. They don't get reported on. They don't get attention. For some reason, and I don't exactly understand completely why, when bicyclists are killed, and maybe it's because they are the minority who are killed. There's only up until COVID, only about 3 or 4 a year were killed out of 100. But when bicyclists are killed, there's enormous attention. The press tends to write about it, and the community around bicyclists tends to rise up in a very big way. They make a big stink. The outrage is huge. Now, why doesn't that happen when a pedestrian is killed or a passenger? I can't really completely explain it, but it has to do with the circumstances of there are so few of them who are killed, and they have a community that is very passionate. So when Shanabelle's son was killed, it was big news. And we heard about it, we read about it on the, on Twitter or whatever. And somehow someone said, the family, because Jamal was killed by a hit and run driver, but he didn't die for another 24 hours. So someone said his parents are at the hospital. We dropped everything. We ran up there just to, I don't know, provide support, see what we could do. And Shannon Bell immediately connected with us and said, I mean, it was shocking how, how she could even think like this, but she was like, I want to do something. And the fact that we had come up there to the hospital to talk to her, to talk to the press, we had a connection. And she said, I want to tell me what I can do. And we said, well, there's a bill we need to get passed about red light cameras that needs to get renewed. And will you come with us to Harrisburg? And she said, yes. And we brought her to Harrisburg, and she met with legislators who were really moved by her story, and the bill got through. And I think that for me was such an eye-opening experience in that, wow, if we can do the work of respectfully working with these families, and for those who want to do this, give them the opportunity to talk about their experience and their grief and why they want policy change to happen, then we can do something here, good for them and good for the greater issue. And that's what led us down this sort of path and road to, and a year later when Emily was killed, we were ready to, it's really because of Laura and Rich. If it was a different Laura and Rich, we wouldn't have connected, but because Laura and Rich wanted to get involved in something, we were able to have, it was, the synergy was just right there.
So how are both of your agencies funded? And do you provide financial assistance to victims and co-homicide survivors?
I'll start. Maybe Laura, you can wrap up. So the Bicycle Coalition is funded by a variety of sources. We have members, so we have individual donors. We have foundations. We have we put on events and we get sponsors for the events. So it's a very big sort of mix of sources of funding. And the work that we do, and then for Families for Safe Streets, we receive, some funding from the Fredricks family, and the rest is all sort of volunteer. So we do it. We basically provide or work on the issues and support the chapter out of the funding that the Bicycle Coalition also raises. So it's a mix of things. Laura, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So when Emily was killed, she was killed by the driver of a private sanitation truck, and we did not go to trial. We settled with the company, and one of the reasons we did that was to have the understanding that safety changes needed to be made. If we had taken them to trial, it only would have been about money. So the company agreed to training and having a safety course and other incentives for the drivers. But in addition to that, the company agreed to donate $25,000 a year for 5 years to safety organizations that we choose. So this November will be 5 years that that she's been gone. So that funding will end come this November. This will be the last time that we'll have those funds to give out. And I have to say that, in the beginning, it was the Bicycle Coalition, because that's what we knew. And, unfortunately or fortunately, we have been involved with other organizations as well that, are in a line with, certainly with the Bicycle Coalition and Sarah, what Rich and I feel. There's the Truck Safety Coalition. So Emily was killed while cycling, but she was killed by a truck. The Institute for Safer Trucking, Tri-State Transportation Campaign, the Vision Zero Network. It's, all of these other organizations that are in line with what we're trying to do, which is get that number to zero. Is it attainable? Yes, we have to feel it is attainable. We say it's too late for Emily, but we do all of this for the living, and it is motivation for us to keep going.
Yeah.
Ladies, please tell the viewers how they can get in touch with you if they need your services, and also tell all the viewers how they can make donations to both of the agencies if they want to help.
Well, they can get in touch with us by the Bicycle Coalition by writing to me, Sarah, Sarah, at bicyclecoalition.org. We also have an address for Families for Safe Streets, which I believe is, Laura, maybe you can also look for that.
I will.
But so while she looks for that address, a donation can be made through our website, bicyclecoalition.org. And there's a way to do that and direct it to Families for Safe Streets, or to our sort of safety education advocacy work. And so that would be the best way to support us. We work to staff, basically support the Families for Safe Streets chapter. We meet monthly. We invite anyone to come and join us at these monthly meetings. We welcome new families to come and become part of this effort. And there are, a variety of ways to give people an opportunity to advocate in the way that they feel comfortable, whether it be right out in front or behind the scenes. So I think the best way is to get in touch with either me or Laura, and Laura can give her email address, and just tell us how they want to get involved.
Yeah, the family's email is families@bicyclecoalition.org.
So either of those two email addresses work, and we're always looking for ways to be present and to be in front of families of victims. We find that that's a really challenging a challenging thing to do, and we're anxious for new ideas of how to make ourselves better known to those families.
So I would suggest connecting with the community-based agencies in the city of Philadelphia. And I think that would be a great collaboration. And they offer so many services for victims and co-homicide survivors, and all services are free. So yeah. I will definitely make that connection for both of you ladies. I do want to thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for the work that you do. Laura, my condolences to you and your family. Saying Emily's name as much as you can keeps her legacy alive. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. Please be very careful. If you decide to ride your bicycle to and from work, you're riding your bicycle to and from school, or you're just out having fun and riding your bicycle, please be very, very careful. We do not want anything to happen to you. Thank you for joining me today.